What's going on, everybody? My name is Mike, and today I'm going to show you all my horror Blu-ray collection. All of my other genres are in the other corner, so everything behind me in this shelf are horror. It is horror. I own over 800 unique horror films on Blu-ray, so let us waste no more time and get to it. Alright, so here is the Blu-ray collection. Right here we have all of my horror Blu-rays. Down there are a few DVDs and all. Just for lack of space, I had to put some of them down there. But pretty much 900 horror Blu-rays, something like that, 850 to 900. I have a pretty lackluster setup right now. Actually, my brother's going to be moving in with me soon, so it's kind of things are kind of in dismay. But I have a CRT, a shitty HD TV, some consoles out here. Got a pretty good Samsung in my room TV. Yeah, over here we have the box sets up top and every other genre. So we will get to those at some point. Yeah, let's take a look at the Blu-rays. Oh, and there's my stepladder, a Sony monitor of some sort that's quite precarious and very professional. So yeah, let's take a look at what we got here. I'm just going to kind of pull out a few as we go along and just kind of scan through, talk about some films, yada yada yada. Nightwing, I want to pull this one out because I watched it last October, the past October here. This is a double feature put out by Mill Creek, a really cool one, actually. This is a Native American horror film double feature. Nightwing was excellent. It's like a killer bat movie with a Native American lead, and directed by Arthur Hiller, who did like Hear No Evil, Speak No Evil with Gene Wilder and Pryor. Really good film with a different perspective. Obviously the Native American approach, which is really cool. I really dug it. There's some mysticism in there. Very cool stuff. Let's see, 28 days later, 28 weeks later. I recently watched this and it absolutely blew me away. I'm not usually a fan of shaky camera, but this one gets it right. Like, it has this kinetic energy to it that just left me breathless. Really cool film with some fantastic editing. 31. So I'm a big fan of Rob Zombie. I love films like Lords of Salem, Devil's Rejects. I think they're classics, really modern classics. And I watched this about a year ago, and I fucking hated it. I actually turned it off after around 15 minutes because I thought the action/death scenes or whatever the fuck was going on were abysmally shot, abysmally lit, and incompetently edited. It was making me nauseous, and I had to shut it off. I want to give it another chance. A lot of these films I've bought for $1, $2 here and there, and 31's no exception. I got this for $1, and it's got a cool slipcover, so I'll give it another chance at some point. We've got the Alien films, American Mary, a good modern film, a horror film that kind of falls apart in the third act. I feel like a lot of modern horror films fall apart in the third act. Don't know why. It's just kind of, I've just noticed that pattern, for me at least. Moving on, Angel Heart, Anatomy, some good German slasher goodness. I've got a lot. I'm a big found footage fan, and I've got a lot of pretty shoddy found footage movies in the collection. But again, I got them for really cheap. I enjoy found footage, even the shitty ones. Bad Milo. If you haven't seen this and you're a fan of Frank Henenlotter's films like Brain Damage and Basket Case and Frankenhooker, you have to pick this up. It's about a little monster that is living inside of this gentleman's ass, and it's basically his rage manifest. And he escapes from his ass very painfully and goes on killing sprees. Ken Marino's a good leading man. He reminds me... Good focus. Ken Marino's a good leading man. He reminds me of Nathan Fillion, but he's got presence, he's got charisma, and I don't think he's been in much else, unfortunately. Speaking of Basket Case, there's Basket Case, the trilogy from overseas. True Believers, which is a Twilight Time release. Hard to get those. They say they're limited to 3,000. I don't know how much I buy that. The Beyond, one of my favorites of all time. Mario Bava, Blood and Black Lace, classic prototype slasher film from the early 60s. I don't think we have slashers at all if it wasn't for Bava. Let's see, Blackula and Scream Blackula Scream, fantastic blaxploitation horror films from the 70s. Blood-Sucking Freaks, yeah. Supreme trash here, Troma goodness, released by Troma. Now, this one's cool because I actually got this, a friend of mine got this signed for me. And it's actually personalized. Magic Mike, XOXO, Lloyd Kaufman, which is so fucking cool. I'm so glad to have this. I wish I met him myself, but I guess this is the next best thing. I look up to the man greatly. He's a champion of independent filmmaking. And Brain Damage, there's a Henenlotter film, one of my favorites. The Brood, another one of my favorites. Moving right along, we have Burial Ground, a good film, a good Italian zombie film released by Severin that I didn't love the first time. I want to give it another chance. Happy to have it in the collection, though. The Burning, which I think is better than Halloween and Friday the 13th. I think it's a superior slasher. I am in the minority on that one, but I do love the film. The cannibal films, I can't really get into the cannibal films because it seems that all of them have animal mutilation and cruelty and killing, and I'm not a fan of that shit at all. I don't think anything should die for a movie. The Changeling, George C. Scott, one of the greatest haunted house films of all time, this was recently released by Second Sight, I think it was. Really cool release. It's got a poster and all that good shit in it. Chucky, which is some great packaging here, lenticular, and it's modeled after one of the Good Guy boxes. City of the Dead, Conjuring, Conjuring 2, some great modern films. Cujo, I've got a lot of Full Moon goodness in here. I enjoy their films when I want to turn off my brain and just kind of fall asleep. I don't know, they're fun. I love them. I love Charles Band. I think, just like Lloyd Kaufman, they're champions of low-budget filmmaking. Charles Band's kind of a dick, but, he's aight. Dead and Buried, one of my favorites of all time. Gary Sherman, underrated as shit. Death Dream, Bob Clark, a great little movie that I just recently picked up. Moving down here, I think I can get off my step stool. So we've got, let's see, moving along, Don't Breathe. I thought Don't Breathe was okay. Dog Soldiers, I don't think is a good film. It's in the collection because I got it at the bookstore for free. A lot of these I got at a bookstore I used to work at. They used to give us credit every paycheck. Really cool shit used to come in. So a lot of my collection comes from there. Don't Torture a Duckling, Lucio Fulci, Giallo, really good film. I've got a lot of 20s stuff. Basically anything that's out on Blu-ray and it's horror and it's from the 20s and silent, I own it. Haven't opened this one yet, but look forward to it. John Barrymore, a bunch of Dracula films. I did like Dracula Untold. Far fucking better than the Mummy reboot from last year. Shoot me. I don't want to talk about it. The Evil Dead movies, Army of Darkness, some of my favorites of all time. Excision, another modern, in my opinion, classic, really underrated film. Criterion Collection, Eyes Without a Face. Faust, Murnau's Faust. Der Fan, which is also known as Trance, and The Fan, is a fucking fantastic, I believe German. Yeah, I believe it's a German film. Unbelievable movie with some fantastic imagery and a very shocking and jarring and uncomfortable third act. I love it. The whole film is really uncomfortable and awkward. The First Power, Lou Diamond Phillips film. Really underrated cult film from the 90s, early 90s, I believe 1990 actually. I'm a fan of Lou Diamond Phillips. Frankenhooker, another Henenlotter film. Frailty, another underrated one. Friday the 13th, Freddy vs. Jason. Lucio Fulci collection has New York Ripper, City of the Living Dead, and House by the Cemetery. Get Out, one of my favorites of all time. I know it just came out last year, but I've seen it a few times and I think it's brilliant. One of the greatest horror films of all time, in my opinion. Let's see. The Green Room, fantastic film from Jeremy Saulnier, who is turning into quite the filmmaker. Love his work. It's brutal, unflinching. He's going to be a great filmmaker. Well, he already is a great filmmaker. The Green Slime, a great Kinji Fukusaku film from the late 60s. 60s as fuck, great theme song. Halloween, what can be said about that? Sorry about the lighting. I think I already said that, but the lighting is the best I could do right now, unfortunately. Kind of dark, but it is what it is. It's not supposed to be fancy. I just want to show the collection to you guys. And so we have all of my Hammer stuff. I believe I own every single Hammer Blu-ray that exists. I've got an awesome Hammer set. Actually, it's in my room, because it's actually always in my room, because they're just feel-good movies to me. I absolutely love Hammer. These Studio Canal ones just absolutely blew me away when I got them in. I ordered them all the day they came out, and just because I couldn't resist. These are all later Hammer films and obscure, unknown ones that, not many people talk about, and they're all color-coded, and they're beautiful. But yeah, so I've got all the Hammer shit here. Twins of Evil, Vampire Lovers, few of which I haven't seen or opened yet. Alright, sorry if there's a weird edit here, but I had to show these, obviously, because these are like the centerpieces of my horror collection, things that actually I keep in my room because I watch them that often. Finally, recently, Universal decided to put out basically all of the classic monster films in one collection. Absolutely love this. Like, can't tell you how much I love these films. Some of the most atmospheric films of all time. What would horror be without the Universal classics? You know, basically started it all. And I love all of them. I get enjoyment out of all of them. I've almost seen everything in this collection. I haven't seen the Creature sequels and some of the Invisible Man sequels, but one day I'm going to do a tribute video or something about, to these because I just love them that much. And they're wonderful, wonderful films from a different time. Similarly, we have the Hammer collection. It's not as comprehensive, but it's damn good, and I believe it has 16 films, something like that. There's a quick list of the films on here. This is a Region B, so you can't get in America, and it's also very, very out of print. This is another set that goes for hundreds of dollars. I got it when it was still pretty cheap and in print, so I got lucky. But it's worth every penny, even the hundreds of dollars that it's going for. It's very similar to the Universal set, and it's just got a bunch of the classics: Dracula, Prince of Darkness, Rasputin the Mad Monk, The Reptile, The Witches, Quatermass movies, Frankenstein Monster from Hell, Captain Kronos, yes, Oliver Reed, and Curse the Werewolf. Just a great set, great transfers, and if you're a Hammer fan, you have to have this in the collection. I don't know if Hammer's going to release anything as comprehensive as this, even though it doesn't have everything. Fucking love this set, and I love both of these sets. They're two of, if I had to pick two items in my Blu-ray collection and had to get rid of everything else, these would be the two items that I keep, because they're just hours of entertainment and some of the best films of all time, especially in horror. So, yeah, had to show you those. Hardware, a film that I can't love, but I do like because of its style and its lighting and atmosphere. Harryhausen, Hellraiser, Hell Night, some Scream Factory goodness. Hausu, one of my favorites. I love that movie to death. It's one of the most insane horror films I've ever seen, and I think Sam Raimi probably watched that one a few times before he did Evil Dead. House of Wax 3D, Vincent Price. I'm one of the biggest Vincent Price fans on the planet. He's like one of my film deities, as I say. I love him. I love everything he's in. I have a lot of his work. We'll get to, actually. I Drink Your Blood, a really underrated 70s film, ahead of its time. Really fucking weird and trippy and strange, but it's a 70s film, so there you go. Early 70s film, so very trippy. Ichi the Killer, haven't seen that since I was a kid. Incredible Melting Man. Yeah, the first new horror creature, that's right. Everybody knows the Incredible Melting Man. I mean, this one really took off. How many sequels did this one get? A ton. It's up there with Halloween. A fun movie, though. Check that movie out if you haven't seen it. Insidious, I love the first two Insidious films. Haven't seen the third one. Picked the third one up really fucking cheap, so that's why it's in the collection. Intruder, underrated slasher film. Island of Lost Souls, early 30s Universal goodness, man, on Criterion. Love that film. It's an adaptation of Dr. Moreau, The Island of Dr. Moreau. Jack Frost, JD's Revenge, a great blaxploitation horror film. Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2. Joyride, a great little thriller from the early 2000s. A couple of Criterion Japanese films that just so happen to be in alphabetical order. Kuroneko and Kwaidan, which I haven't seen, actually, but I love Japanese horror, and I will see them eventually. Leprechaun, the complete collection. I love the Leprechaun films. I don't care what anybody says. I think they're great fun, and Warwick Davis is fantastic in them. Mad Monster Party. Got some of the Masters of Horror. I'd like to get the rest of them. The Mist with the black and white version, which I still haven't seen. I gotta see the black and white version. I hear it's much better. Monster Squad, which is out of print. Great film. Great fun. Shane Black written film, Frank Decker and Shane Black. Mother, one of my favorite films, again, of all time. This one really hit home with me because of its themes and what it was trying to say and what it does say remarkably well. I think this one's going to be looked back on in the future as a really important film. Not going to get into why, maybe one day I will, but I love Mother and motivational growth. Haven't seen this one. I've heard great things. I hear it's Henenlotter-like. Jeffrey Combs plays mold, like a mold creature of some sort. This one's out of print, hard to find. Another one of my favorites, man. Love this movie, Mr. Vampire. This is a Nova release. If you guys don't know about Nova and you have an all-region player, check out Nova. Just make sure they have English subtitles. They do really cool work, and I love Mr. Vampire. Absolutely love the Chinese take on vampires and martial arts. Vampires and martial arts, man, how can you frickin' go wrong? The answer is you cannot. Alright, now I'm going to use my little stepladder, impromptu stepladder, as a seat. So, man, I wish Scream Factory would do more of these horror icon collections. Paul Naschy. This is fantastic stuff. I mean, it's got like 5 Paul Naschy films. Haven't cracked the second volume open yet. This one has 5 as well. Naschy's an underrated actor. Naschy was the Spain's answer to the Universal monsters and the Universal monster actors like Lon Chaney and Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi. He played every fucking creature you can imagine. Hunchback, Dracula, a vampire, Wolfman, everything. He played them all. And he also directed a bunch of them, so I commend him for that. Boris Karloff never directed anything, or Bela Lugosi, or Chaney, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they did. Necromantic films, which I haven't gotten into yet. I'm scared. I mean, to be frank, I'm really scared of these films. But I wanted them for the collection because I do want to check them out and give them a chance. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna like them. I don't know if it's my thing. We'll see. They're basically necrophilia horror films. So films for the whole family. Moving along, we have Night of the Demons and Night of the Demons 2, which I think is not a great film, but, for sake of completion, I do have it. I don't have the third one. Never seen the third one, in fact. Don't think it's on Blue. Night of the Living Dead Criterion, The Dawn, zombie, George Romero's zombie movies, all of them. Nightmare on Elm Street, Nosferatu, The Omen Collection, which for some reason doesn't have the 4th film, but it has the remake? Okay. Onibaba, a great Japanese horror film that I haven't seen on Blu-ray yet. Seen it on DVD, but love Onibaba. Great visual masterpiece of a Japanese horror film. Atmosphere 2. Ouija and Ouija 2. Ouija 2 is fantastic. I love Ouija 2. I'm a big fan of Mike Flanagan. I think now with Haunting of Hill House, he's kind of made a name for himself. But I've been there since Absentia, and I think he's gonna be one of the greatest horror filmmakers of all time. I'm putting money on that. Some of the Paranormal Activity films, Pieces, which I haven't seen on Blu-ray yet. This is a fantastic slasher. If you haven't seen it and you like cheesy slashers, this is the granddaddy of cheesy slashers. Unbelievably fun. Planet of the Vampires, Bava. Atmospheric as shit. Not a great movie, but technically it's kind of a masterpiece. And it predates Alien, and Dan O'Bannon definitely saw Planet of the Vampires and was inspired by it in terms of the story and themes. And then we have the Vincent Price collection. I've got all 3 of these. I believe the first 2 are out of print. This one goes for a ridiculous amount. I mean, I'm talking hundreds. I think it's around 200 right now. Last time I checked, at least. Oh, Possession. Oh my god, how can I skip Possession? And I can't show the cover because it has tits and serpents. But this is a fantastic release by Mondo Vision, I think. One of the most underrated horror films of all time. Lovecraftian as shit and wonderful. But yeah, the Vincent Price movies, Prom Night, which is out of print. The recent Psycho collection that was released by Universal, believe it or not. It's got all the Psycho films. The Purge movies, which I like. Purge Anarchy actually blew me away. It's basically Escape from New York. And I'm a huge fan of Escape from New York. So I was a huge fan of that. And then we got Reanimator. I don't have the Bride of the Reanimator limited edition that they put out, but I had to get this one. One of my favorite films of all time. It's got like a comic, obviously the film, and it's some of the most beautiful packaging of any. They do some great work, Arrow, when they really put effort into it. If it's a big release, they do unbelievable work. Rec, Region B, I love Rec. I think it's one of the best found footage horror films of all time. Possibly one of the best horror films of all time. I think it's quintessential found footage. If you're gonna start found footage, you're not sure where to start with Rec. Jaume Bagelero, Spanish film, I should say. We got the Resident Evil movies. I am a huge fan of Mila Jovovich and Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil franchise here. They're just brainless action films, good action films, and they know what they are, and they don't try to be anything else, and I dig that. And I like W.S. Anderson. I think he's an entertaining filmmaker with a style his own, and some of his movies are shit, but I like the guy. Event Horizon and Soldier and the Resident Evil movies. Not all of them. He didn't direct all of them, but moving along, Resurrected, an underrated release here by Scream Factory. Love the Resurrected. I love any good Lovecraft adaptations. Rocky Horror Picture Show in a digibook, which I have not seen. I know, hang me out to dry now. I'm just not a huge fan of musicals, to be honest, but I own it because it's a classic, and I got it at the bookstore for nada, so why not? George Romero, I believe this went out of print, at least in the U.S. Between Night and Dawn, it has Season of the Witch, something about vanilla. I don't know. That one's not a horror film. There's always vanilla. And The Crazies. So that's a really cool set. Beautiful work by Arrow as usual. Here are all the Scream movies. Silent Hill, Shutter Island, Society. Another Arrow release that's just phenomenal. Look at this. If you've seen the film, you know what this is all about. And if you haven't seen the film, correct that. Because Society is still a film that holds up. The effects are some of the most disgusting and vile that I've ever seen. And fantastic, of course, by Mad George, Screaming Mad George. And a great story about the rich basically consuming the poor, which ain't going to stop anytime soon, at least in this country. Well, in the world, really. Splice, Squirm. Fuck yeah, I love Squirm. Disgusting, disgusting worm movie from the 70s by Jeff Lieberman, who is another underrated horror director. Alright, and it's going to get kind of, well, the quality is probably going to drop a bit because I had to raise my ISOs way up so that you guys could see this. It's still a bit dark. It's the best I can do. So moving down here, more S's. Let's see, The Stuff, one of my favorites. Let's see, Suddenly in the Dark, a Korean film from the early 80s, which I haven't seen yet, Korean horror. I love Korean filmmaking, so. Summer of Fear, a completely not talked about Wes Craven film from early on in his career. Suspiria, which is one of the most beautiful releases I have. I'll take it out here and show you my reflection there. Just absolutely beautiful work here. Yeah, Synapse, fantastic. This is very hard to get now. I think it's out of print, so it's got the soundtrack and everything. Suspiria finally got a great release, which it deserves. One of the greatest films of all time. A great Region B Tetsuo, the Iron Man and Body Hammer here. Crazy films, crazy fun films with an energy that's unmatched, insane creativity. I absolutely love these. The first one's really short. I think both are really short. The first one's about an hour, so just watch it over and over and over. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, obviously a classic. The mediocre, average remake, which I used to like a lot more when I was a kid, when I was young, dumb, and full of bad opinions. Theater of Blood, Vincent Price, and no, not that Cushing's not in that one. That's Madhouse. Vincent Price. Them. Giant fucking ants! One of my favorites of all time. Have yet to watch the Blu-ray, though. The Thing. I own 2 copies of The Thing. 2 different versions. The Arrow release and the Scream Factory. This one comes with a badass poster. Had to have both. The Tingler. Another one of my favorites. Tourist Trap. Underrated full moon film. David Schmoller, I believe, who went on to do some Puppet Master. A lot of full moon films. Moving along, Troll 1 and 2, gotta have them. Oh, Train to Busan. God damn, I love that movie. Fantastic Korean zombie film on a train. Can't go wrong. Under the Skin, one of my favorites of this decade. Totally inspired me and, totally blew me away with some of the imagery. Vampire, I've yet to open on Criterion. Visitor, which is insane, fun. Starring Academy Award-winning director John Huston. White Zombie. The Witch, a great modern classic. Extra, I picked that up recently, haven't cracked it yet. Love that movie. One of the weirdest fucking movies I've ever seen. It's a British horror film from the early 80s, I believe 82. And if you haven't seen Extra, gotta see Extra. Yeah, and this one was released by, again, Second Sight, who's really doing some great work. Zombie, Lucio Fulci, I'm a big fan of the man. And then we're getting towards the end of the horror. Over here, what's this? Zombieland, so there you go. Good film. Oh, and The Wolfman. You know what? I want to talk about this real quick because I am a fan of The Wolfman. This is far better than Dracula Untold. This is far better than The Mummy. And people shit on this film. It's got a lot of practical effects. Granted, a lot of them were thrown out because fucking Hollywood doesn't like practical effects anymore. Too expensive. Rick Baker worked on this film. And I really love this film. It has some slow moments and some odd choices, but And Benicio's not the greatest Lawrence Talbot. He ain't no Lon Chaney Jr., but it's a good Wolfman film, and it's the best Universal kind of reboot that we've had. So people need to give that one some more credit. And then we move into Kaiju. Yes, Kaiju has its own section in my Blu-rays here. Daimajin, which is Japanese, basically a giant statue comes to life and wreaks havoc. They're really fun films. Definitely check them out. Death Kappa, I haven't seen that. Heard good things, though. Moving down here, we got the Gamera films. All of the Gamera films. I believe these are at a print and getting up there, so pick them up while you could. Destroy All Monsters, obviously Gojira, which is, one of the best of all time. Very different Godzilla film, actually, than what was to follow. And actually, I recently sold my Godzilla DVD set that has things like Terra Mecha Godzilla, Godzilla and Mothra. I'm banking on the fact that next year, Criterion, who has the rights to a lot of those Showa, I believe it's Showa-era Godzilla films, I'm confident that they're going to be releasing all of those in a beautiful box set. Similar to how they did with the Ingmar Bergman set. All of the Godzilla films on Blu-ray, except for the ones that aren't on Blu-ray yet in America or anywhere that has English subtitles. Yeah, I even have the 98 one, which is an okay monster movie. It's just not a good Godzilla film. So I don't really think it's a Godzilla film. I don't really consider it one, but it's got the name, so it's there. Haven't seen the the newest one. What's it? 2014? Yeah, 2014 Godzilla. Haven't seen that one or Shin Godzilla yet because I'm still making my way through all the Godzilla films in order. And I just rewatched some of the older ones over and over, so it's taken me forever. And I didn't grow up with Godzilla like a lot of people did. I just did not. My father didn't get into him, and he's the one who kind of put me onto all this stuff. Moving on, we have King Kong, which is an absolute classic. Still has so much magic and charm to it, and I absolutely love King Kong original. Peter Jackson's is good too. Not as good as the original, obviously. And then a few more Kaiju DVDs. Zarkor, the Full Moon Kaiju. That's right. And then, yeah, some of my double features and some of the A's down here. I have the DVD horror shelf in my room. We'll get to that one day. But that's really about it for the horror shelf, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I hope you got a good idea of my taste in films here. And if you have any questions about any of these movies, I should be able to answer them, where I got them, things like that, if you're interested. Yeah, that's really it. Yeah, I'd love to know what some of your favorite horror films are and, how many you guys have in your collection, the ever-growing collections, us collectors know. They never stop growing. You'll never run out of films to enjoy or to discover, and that's one of the beauties of film, one of the many beauties of film. So there you go. All of my horror Blu-rays. Mwah. I'm very proud of this. A lot of time and effort and good amount of money went into them. So, something I hold dear. Oh, and there's a tentacle. Because, Lovecraft and stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.